Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm Liz. Welcome to my studio. Let's do a little stitching. All right, let's talk about moths and mending, because if you like to wear sweaters or any kind of animal-based knitwear, you will end up with moth holes. It's almost inevitable. So in your little Moth Mend kit, you have everything you need to take care of those pesky little holes. Okay, so before you start stitching, what you're going to want to do is decide how thick of a line you want to use for your stitch. Now, I like a really thick line, so I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle with 3 strands of embroidery floss doubled. So remember, you don't want your thread to be longer than from about your fingertips up to your elbow. So I'm going to cut that. And I like to double mine back on itself because then I don't have to worry about stitching on the go. When I have it in my bag, I'm not going to worry about losing my needle or anything like that. So I'm simply going to divide my floss into 2 sets of 3 strands each. This could be 3 sets of 2 strands. You could just simply, if you like a finer line, use 1 strand doubled back on itself to make 2. I usually use, because I use split stitch so much, I at least use a doubled strand so that I have 2 strands. Okay, so here's 1 strand, and I'm just going to thread my needle. I always like to snip my threads again so it's nice and sharp when I want to thread my needle. And for threading your needle, get your thread way down in your fingers, bring the needle to the thread, and then almost release the fibers into the eye of the needle as you sort of move that needle down. Of course, because I'm trying to do it on camera, it's not doing it. Let's try this one more time. There we go. So I'm just going to pull my thread through, make sure it's not getting any kinks in it. This is a little long. I was talking and doing it. You want yours a little bit shorter than this. And then I simply knot the end. I usually use a quilter's knot and go ahead and snip this so it's a little bit shorter. Now the nice thing with this too is if you wanted to combine colors, you could. You don't have to use the same colors. You could combine like a pink and a green or a blue and a green and use that. So now your thread is, or your needle's threaded and you're ready to go. You will see the stickers that came in your kit. You can cut them apart and place them over the holes that you have to repair. This is sort of a cashmere shawl that I have loved and used, and you can see it has several holes, even still some here that I'm going to come back and add another sticker to and repair. When I'm mending, I always use split stitch, and I'm going to show you why. When you mend something using split stitch, you get a lot of coverage on the back side. There's almost as much, if not more, of the thread you're using on the back side. So it really fills in those holes and makes it nice and strong. This is the back side of a completed Moth Mend, and here's the front side. I haven't washed the paper away yet. You can see I've just used split stitch. I did add a few little French knots right here. So let's go over split stitch and French knots. Okay, so we'll start with split stitch. This is probably the stitch I use the most, and I just want to give you a really good demonstration. So you're going to come up from the back, you'll come forward. I like to say about the grain of size of a grain of rice. Now there are 2 different ways to do split stitch. I like to do it this way. It uses more thread, but I prefer the look. So this is how I'm going to show you. You may already know the other way, and go ahead and use that. We'll review that too, just so you know it. I come up about a stitch length away, a little less, and I'm going to go back down into my original stitch. Don't panic if you haven't divided it exactly in half. That's okay, it won't matter too much. So here we go again, we come up, I should say the length of about half of a stitch, not a full stitch. From the back, and we go down into the center of our stitch, like this. And this is great for when you have curving lines. When you do rows of it, it looks incredible. It starts to look like a tapestry. You could use this instead of stem stitch or chain stitch. Those are all kind of stitches you could use in place of this if you wanted to try those. So I just keep coming up about a half a stitch length, and then I go back down again. Now, the other way to do it is you can come up, you can go forward, and then you can come from behind in the center of your stitch and then move forward. It doesn't use as much thread when you do it this way, and it has a slightly different look. You may like this look better. When I'm mending, I do it the other way because it gives me more coverage on the underneath. The backside has more thread. You come up from behind in the middle of your stitch. Now you can see why sometimes it's a little tricky to find the middle of your stitch, and then come back down. So that's chain stitch 2 ways. Along with split stitch and French knots, you may want a few little straight stitches to give detail to your moth. Here I've used them just to sort of give the feathery antenna a look to finish the moth. It's super easy to do, and I'll talk about doing little straight stitches right now. Okay, so let's do back stitch. You're going to come up from behind, you'll come forward the length of a grain of rice, you'll come up from behind leaving a blank space, the same length as your first stitch, and you're going to go right back in to that same hole where you went in before. You're going to come up the length of a stitch, and you'll go back down into the hole before it. So you're just forming a line. Come up, starting to turn a little bit here, the length of a stitch, and then come down. This is great for outlining, doing lettering, adding detail, and that is back stitch. Okay, so now we're going to do a little rice stitch. We will come up from behind and we'll make 1 stitch, and then we'll go ahead and do another stitch next to it, but we're going to point it in a different direction, sort of on a diagonal. Now, one thing to think about when you're doing these stitches is you really want them to look random. So kind of have the directions of your stitches facing all different directions. If you want to make the stitches look uniform, well, as far as spacing goes, because they're not going to look uniform because they're all going different directions, but you can keep them sort of equally spaced, which is what I'm doing here. When I'm doing them, I really like an organic look. If I was filling in a shape, I'd do it like this. I'd put them much closer together too. I'd go ahead and start adding some right up next to the stitches that already exist, like this. So say I wanted this to really look nice and blue, I'd go ahead and just kind of cluster them really close together. What I really like to do is make them fairly random, like have one here, maybe 1 or 2 over here. This helps give your sort of your whatever you're using them for a more organic look. So you have to just think about what your goal is. Is it to fill something in? Is it to create texture? Is it to create a pattern or an organic look on something found in nature that you're depicting? Then you can add, a few more by coming further over here. And that is rice stitch. Just really focus on keeping them going in different directions. They don't always have to be the same length. If you're going to make them different lengths, make them obviously different lengths. Like I'll put a longer one here so that it looks intentional. You can see that one looks intentional. I'll add a short one next to it so we know that we really wanted that one to look long. And we'll put another long one over here so he's not all alone. So just play around. This is a really fun stitch to use. I use this one a lot. So you have everything you need to know about back stitch or split stitch, sorry about that, split stitch and French knots and straight stitch, and now you can get to mending your sweaters. The nice thing about the sticky pattern is it will hold your sweaters while you're mending them. They won't stretch out. Sometimes when you put a knit fabric in a hoop, it will stretch the fabric and it becomes warped. So really just let the sticker hold it for you. When you're finished, just gently rinse the sticker away. I like to soak it probably in cool water if you have wool. And if it's cotton, you can use a little bit warmer water. Let it soak, let it dissolve, and then gently run it under the water. And you can just do the section where the sticker is. And if you just kind of are patient, it will come away. It's very easy, and it's made of cornstarch. It can go right down the drain. It's not going to hurt anything at all. So happy mending. You're going to love wearing those sweaters again. They'll be just like new.